Our final talk for the evening, stick around, this one's going to be good, is...
No, don't leave! Don't leave! Don't leave!
Bradee Evans. Bradee Evans, everybody. Figma's own Bradee Evans is here. Bradee joined us recently. We're so excited to have her. Also so excited to have her up on the stage speaking tonight. And Bradee is going to, I believe, yes, still be talking about parenting, triage, and design for the intended future. Bradee Evans.
Okay, you guys all need to stand up. You know, I had to stand up. Stand up. Quick, quick. Just real quick, real quick. Okay, I don't know. High five somebody and then sit back down. If anybody got up during this stretch, you're especially mean. And left, I mean. That would be mean. Okay. This title may be misleading. And so if there's anyone who has a better title at the end of this talk, for this talk, please tweet to me, and I will send you an amazing illustration on a Post-it just for you. Okay. So my name's Bradee. That's my mom. That's me. Aren't I adorable? I was born in the 70s, you guys. I'm so old. The upshot is, when I just a little quick context. Before Figma, I worked in product design for like 7 years at Adobe, and I was the design manager on Photoshop. And for like 5 of those years, well, I wasn't the manager for 5, but that was one of the places I ended up. So I've had like a really weird life prior to Figma, and I'm really happy to be here. So some of this talk's going to be a little bit about my time there on Photoshop and what I learned, just and a little bit about my mom. So when I was little, I drew all the time. I got misty when you spoke about drawing. And my mom said, Bradee, you're so creative. You're so creative. You know who else is creative, Bradee? Doctors. Doctors are so creative. And so, look how earnest I am. I was like, okay, yeah, I want to be a doctor, Mom. So fast forward a little bit, and I ended up in a accelerated biology class. I apologize for this GIF. I'll give you a nicer one in a minute, but I don't know why I did this. It is somewhat relevant. So my biology class teacher, the first day of class, she had everybody take off one shoe and put it up on the table, and then she had like 4 of us come up, and she was like, now sort these shoes into whatever categories make sense. And I don't know what happened to me, but obviously this has a huge impact on me because I'm like way old now, and I still remember this shoe sorting exercise. And I don't know. There's a better image for shoe sorting probably than the evil sus zapatos se hablan. Shoe sorting, but maybe my mom would be proud because designers sort all the time, and it's kind of like a doctor. We'll see. Okay. So then sorting, here's your other gratuitous GIF. Eventually moves into college, right, where you get to sort all kinds of adorable things into family, genus, species. So sorting was always kind of a love of mine when I was early on in my pre-design career. And then you can't see I changed my background. I'm very like ADD with my everything, so you can't see that there's a bunch of question marks that popped up around the Photoshop thing. And so like fast forward like 20 years, and I show up at Photoshop basically with my undergrad in neuroscience and biology, and I'm like chasing this dude around on the Photoshop team, and it's kind of funny to call it a Photoshop design team because there was 2 of us. And I was like, dude, Tim, how do you decide what to work on every day? Because I feel like I'm like standing at like the bottom of this like really shallow ramp, and there's like 100 little red marbles at the top, and they're slowly rolling downhill, and it's our job to push them uphill with just our noses. And he was like, yeah, that's pretty much how we do it. And I'm like, so what about like the long-term, the future-facing stuff? He's like, well, I just kind of use my gut. And like coming from a science background and coming from like my mom, who really wanted me to be a doctor, I was like, I can't just use my gut to design the future of Photoshop. This is terrifying. There's got to be a better way. And so, like, what was it? Like, I don't know, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, the whole getting thing done, GTD and like Inbox Zero. Were you guys alive then? Is anyone alive for that? There you go. Yes. Okay, I saw one alive. That was all based on triage. And, you know, this helped, right? Like immediate, urgent, non-urgent. All right, sure. Like with the balls rolling down the ramp, you can grab like those are immediate. These are like urgent, and those are non-urgent. They're not here yet, so I'm going to work with the nose on the bottom ones. And that's fine for like the day-to-day stuff, but like not so great for like future stuff. Like how do you prioritize the future stuff? And then I found that there is a better definition of what the original purpose of triage was for, the better organization of these things. And it was, okay, well, first you address, these are the three categories. You are addressing like those who are likely to live regardless of what care they receive. Those who are unlikely to live, oh no, regardless of what care they receive. And then those for whom immediate care might make like an impact. And now we're getting somewhere, because at least we're talking about people. My mom would be proud. This is definitely still categorization, and we're actually talking about like almost users, right? Like you can kind of imagine how these are users. And I'm like, all right, I can maybe work with this. Click. But then we end up with this problem: the those, the they, the users. The users want this, Bradee. The users want that, Bradee. I had a user tell me this yesterday. Like they need this. And even those guys who were doing the original triage, they had like this basic sorting for users. Like you're going to help the users on your team, right? You're not going to go across the enemy lines and go like triage the people dying on the other team, right? I mean, that's some amount of those. So obviously we needed to at least be like, okay, well, those who are most likely to reach your goal. Okay, and you'd think this would be pretty clear on the Photoshop team, but no. Actually, you wouldn't think that, would you? You wouldn't think. All right. So who's on our side? So then I'm like, all right, wow, that was a crazy transition. Those who, right, of course, duh, okay. Those who are influential, sure, like those who can like move the needle, board. Okay, those who pay a higher fee. So like this is like a rubric. So everything from the top is where you start, and then if all else is equal, then you kind of move to the next one, and you get reweighted. Yeah, those who will be paying for longer. Oh my God, the kids are worth more than the grown-ups. It's a thing. And then there's a line, and then we get into the good stuff. Okay, have pain, obviously. And then are at risk. So this is where we get to triage, right? These two are triage related. They are bleeding. And they might die. And then we've got represent where you want to go next, or on your side of the battlefield, right? Okay. So just that last one, so important. And for some reason, like a whole bunch of the places I've worked failed to define this last one about where you want to go next. So just really quick to add on top of that, has any of you heard of this word, like a challenge case or a stress test? Yes? Cool, because I thought I made it up, so this is interesting. I knew I didn't make it. I mean, I really did thought I'd make it up. Anyway, so, just to keep with the metaphor for fun and for I can't hold this thing at the same, I should have had the headset on. Like maybe there's a prophylactic way to handle, the fact that a bunch of people are sick and the front lines, right? Like maybe actually there's like medicine. We could treat like the most severe case with medicine or something. So metaphorically speaking, have you ever heard of, they're all messed up. No, it's okay. Have you ever heard of Kat Holmes? Yes. Okay, Kat Holmes is a complete and total badass. If you've not heard of her, you must leave here and go check her out. So I've been trying to explain this challenge case thing for a while, which is basically like, if you can solve, if you've got a design problem and this person has a design problem, if you can find somebody who has that problem worse than everybody else, such that if you solve the problem for them, you would actually solve it for everyone else, that's like that's like the challenge case, right? Like that's the big deal. So Kat, when she came and spoke at Adobe Design, nailed the metaphor because she works with, or she used to work with inclusive design at Microsoft. And her challenge case example was like, for instance, if you're solving a usability problem for somebody who's like an amputee, who literally has one arm, that's like a small group of people, right? Like totally fails the total addressable market test. But you also solve for people who are in a cast, and you also solve for a mom holding a baby. So you also solve for someone carrying a cup of coffee. And so this challenge case concept like layers on top of all that other categorization that we were already talking about, all that other triage. So you get all the way to the bottom, and then you kind of can back out to a challenge case. Does that make sense? Are you guys glazing over? Are you asleep? Do we need to stand up again? Okay, let's keep going. All right. So this is just like another visualization of this, but basically you've got the user problems on the left. Like they're not gonna leave your situation, your product, your company, they're not gonna stop using regardless of what you do. Like you can fix their problem, but they weren't gonna leave anyway. It's fine, they're fine, they're not gonna die. And then you've got well, neither leave nor join regardless of your efforts. They're gonna die. Like they're not gonna join the product. So okay, and then we've got the middle people, who are the people you can actually help. And then if you can overlay on top of that the level of impact for solving a really good challenge case, then you actually can start prioritizing the kind of problems that you want to work on, which is cool because these don't matter. We already discussed that, and that one matters the most. Like the most impactful challenge case on top of the most need, on top of like this is actually going to make a difference. So really quick, let's put this to work on Photoshop. So Photoshop has a forum. You may not know this, but there's a lot of users and they talk to you all the time about all kinds of stuff. And some of them are astral photographers, and some of them are literally biologists who look at microscopes. Some are the FBI. Some are designers who like to complain a lot about how this tool is terrible. So like, let's just take, because this whole thing started with my mom, let's just take the example of, because this is a real life example of one of those people who's looking under a microscope, and they complained, and it was probably on a customer visit or something. They're like, dudes, you don't understand, man. We have to like print out the Photoshop file and like literally with like a pen count the red blood cells that are like jacked up. It would be super cool if you could just like give us a tool for counting red blood cells so we don't have to print it out. It would be amazing. Okay, so you're on the Photoshop team. Maybe you're a product manager. Maybe you're an influential designer. I don't know. Can we fix that? Can we make one? Of course we can. Yeah, that's fixable. We can move on. Will it make a difference? Would the users in the labs leave? Would they buy a different product if we didn't put the blood cell counter in? I'm gonna go with no. But let's just go ahead and give it the benefit of the doubt. Sure, maybe. And let's assume these people were like influential, like they had a lot of friends, and there's obviously a lot of people who are in labs counting blood cells. Let's just carry on. If we fix this, if we add a blood cell counter to Photoshop, is it gonna move the product in the direction we want to take it in the future? Does that like hone where we want to be? Like, is that part of like our dream and our mission? Like, blood cell counter? I'm gonna go with no. But let's just play it out for whatever. Can we find like a better challenge case or a better stress test for it? Probably. I don't know though, like, cause like counting blood cells is probably pretty freaking hard. So maybe they're actually an umbrella case for like a larger group of people that we haven't yet met. So I'm gonna take a vote, hands up. Did we ship a blood counter tool in Photoshop? Is there a count tool? If you think yes, raise your hand. If you think no, raise your hand. All the no's are wrong. There is a count tool in Photoshop. It shipped, I think, in CS6. Like, this is not even that old. And it's because the Photoshop team loves everybody. They're like this sweet group of like people who've been at this for 25 years, and they just love fixing stuff for people. But bless their hearts, they need to do some triage, right? And we need and we need to find the challenge case in the end. So this is fairly much wrapping up my talk. There's my mom. If you see her, please just tell her I'm kind of a doctor. Sorta. I mean, I use doctor words sometimes. Also, can you ask her why I didn't get her jawline? Why do I have no chin? I hope you had fun. Look up Kat Holmes. Always be triaging and asking yourself, is there a challenge case beyond the one I'm looking at? Like, is there something like more hard that I should solve so that I have a larger umbrella benefit? And then, like I said, tell my mom. And, oh, remember your kids listen. And just so you know, I have kids now. And I totally use this to my advantage. And thanks.
Yay. Bradee Evans, everybody. Yes. 3 questions.
You know you want to ask a Photoshop question. You know you do. Or not. Do you even know what Photoshop is?
We have a question.
Hi. I was amazed by how much your shirt is color coordinated with the logo. And was curious about the Photoshop because I've been using it for years. And I was wondering, do you happen to know any Easter eggs in Photoshop?
Oh, there are many.
Yes, I knew I asked the right person.
I won't tell you how to do it, but I'll tell you there are 2 of my favorites that happened under my watch. One, you can get a banana to show up in the toolbar, colored yellow, an actual like banana tool. Google it. And another one is you can find a color pickle somehow, but I can't because we like mispronounced color picker one day, and it was hilarious. I'm telling you, those guys, like, even though, you know, for all of you guys who like to throw shade at Photoshop, by the way, I once called that casting shadow on a podcast. I'm so embarrassing. But yeah, there's a color pickle somewhere, and there's definitely a yellow banana you can put in the toolbar.
2 more questions. Up at the front.
Hi, I think you're amazing. So you were studying neuroscience, and then when were you learning design?
So back when I went to school, the only way you could study, so I had a minor in studio art, but a double major in neuroscience and biology, and this is like pre-tables on the web. Like, this was like still there were marching ants on the web. So the whole idea, like, if you wanted to do like computer interaction design, you needed an HCI degree, and those were for like super nerdy people, and there were like 4 of them in the world. So when I started doing design, because I did fall in love with HTML when like right as I was leaving school, and I started doing, you know, I just loved playing on the web, and so I kind of backed into it from there, and then I got a full-time job way out of my league as an in-house web and graphic designer, having like no graphic design background. But they were so happy because this company had budget that like the print shop actually taught me graphic design, which was kind of amazing. And I got to go see the big Heidelberg press, and they like gave me, anyway, that's how I learned to design on the job, to answer your question. Well, most of like, no, but I'm so old now, I practically could teach it. Okay.
1 more question.
Hi, I think you're awesome too. So you're obviously very vibrant and creative, and I totally resonated with you when you mentioned that you have a lot of ADD moments, because I totally do that at work. So what is your advice for, you know, someone like me who kind of has that side and is just super like vibrant? I was actually an EA before I was a designer, and I was the quirkiest person like in the freaking office. I was just like the super formal EA playing like heavy metal in my headphones, and then just like the dirtiest desk in front of the CEO's office. So it was just really ironic, and that's when I made my career transition. So, so what's your advice in terms of that? Because you probably have meetings with product managers, and you kind of have to stand up straight and sound like you really know what you're saying all the time. And so I mean, I can be quirky at like meetings, and sometimes people are kind of like, okay, like, let's not listen to her. Like, so what's your advice in terms of that?
In terms of being quirky?
In terms of, yeah. Well, see, there's my ADD. I didn't even ask my question properly. So like, just like being vibrant and at the same time being able to, have those serious conversations with like product managers or just like about the product and have that influence while still being that creative, fun-loving person.
I really love that question, actually. I also had a burnout phase. I think we all have a burnout phase where, the ball slide was really good, really resonated with the ball slide, and you got to kind of keep it in the middle, right? You can't become, and God, all of your talks, they're all so good, right? Like, you can't become so much of your work that you lose yourself. You've got to still keep it yourself, right? So I'm myself, and one of the reasons I took a job here at Figma was I knew I could be myself here. Yeah. And we're hiring, exactly. And also being myself, like, if every once in a while I would come across someone who I was just too much for. Like, they were just like, okay, all right. And that was all right. That's fair. I'm a lot. And I can kind of modulate when I meet someone like that and kind of try to settle down. But also I think, if you interview as yourself and you get hired as yourself, then it's absolutely expected that you stay yourself. And so I moved up from in Adobe as myself. So even though I was like presenting to VPs and the upper echelon at Adobe, I was always this, like at the front of the room when I was talking. It was confident, but me still. So stay you.
All right.